Hi everybody, welcome back. We're about to be going into part 2 of today's lesson on part of a part problems and how they are different from part of what is left problems. In the last video, we used these two examples about vanilla cakes and sprinkles to help us understand the differences between these two problems. We will continue to do this today, so make sure that you're using those ideas again. In today's lesson, first, we're going to discuss some common ideas that come up in word problems that will help you know if it is a part of a part or a part of what is left problem. I really want you to pay attention to this when we get into it because it will help you with word problems. Next, you guys will get a chance to look at two separate word problems. One, a part of a part, and the other, a part of what is left problems. Hopefully you'll use these to better understand what they are like in word problems. Finally, you are going to get a chance to try two problems to see if you can really figure out what types of problems they are and how to solve them. So I hope you guys are ready. Now let's get started. First, I want you to look at this chart. What it shows you is 4 ideas that show up in part of a part word problems and part of what is left word problems. This first idea refers to what will happen in the models. The second part here refers to what you can see in the word problems. Here shows you how to help you with the math. And finally, this shows you patterns that show up in the questions. I want you to take a moment and pause and read this to make sure you understand it before moving forward. Please pause and read this chart. Okay guys, welcome back. Now I'm going to talk about this chart in more detail. I'm going to go over each of these points one at a time and show you where they show up in the vanilla cake example problem. First, when it comes to the model, for a part of a part problem, your answer will always show up where the two fractions meet, which in the model is the shaded area. In the example of the part problem from the first video, since 1/3 of my cakes were vanilla and 1/2 of those had sprinkles, my answer would show up where the sprinkles and the vanilla met, in the shaded area. That is a pattern that will show up. However, in part of what is left problems, your answer will always show up in the leftover or non-shaded area. For example, here, in this problem, 1/3 of my cakes are vanilla, 1/2 of the rest of the cakes have sprinkles. I know that I'm actually putting sprinkles not on the vanilla, but on the rest of the cakes. So my answer will show up in the non-shaded area. The second idea is how the word problems connect these ideas and show them. In part of a part problems, the problem will connect the first and second fraction. Once again, you can see that here where it says 1/2 of my vanilla cakes have sprinkles. This sentence connects the vanilla cakes and sprinkles, showing you that it's a part of a part problem. However, in contrast, in part of what is left problems, the problem will discuss the rest or the leftover when discussing the second fraction. For example, in this sentence, on the part of what is left problem, 1/2 of the rest of the cakes have sprinkles. This shows that I am actually dealing in the non-shaded area or the leftover area. The third pattern that often shows up is here, and this is about how you do the math. You will be able to use the two fractions that show the connected parts to do the math in part of a part problems. And what that means is this. If I know that 1/3 of my cakes are vanilla and 1/2 of those have sprinkles, I know that these two numbers are connected in the problem, which is how I know to use them in the math. However, in part of what is left problems, you will need the fraction for the leftover, which is what is called a hidden number, to solve the math. This is a little more complicated, but if you look here, it says 1/3 of my cakes are vanilla and 1/2 of the rest have sprinkles. So if you remember the warm-up from the last video, if I have 1/3 of vanilla, the hidden number would be the 2/3 to show the rest. And that is what I would use in the math. Finally, when it comes to the question will often connect the two parts. You can see that here in the part of a part question, what fraction of my cakes are vanilla with sprinkles? This question connects the two parts of the problem. However, in part of what is left problem, the question will often refer to only one of the parts. Once again, that can be seen here in this problem when it says, what fraction of my cakes have sprinkles? It only is referring to those sprinkles. So hopefully you understand some of these general ideas that will show up. Now let's see how those play out into word problems. So let's look at these two problems here. I want you to take a moment and pause the video and try to solve these problems. This is an example of a part problem. The answer is in the shaded area, you'll see. On this one, 1/4 of my garden has fruit trees, 2/3 of the fruit trees are apple trees. What fraction of my yard is apple trees? In the part of what is left problem, it's very similar, but notice how it's different as well. 1/4 of my garden has fruit trees. 2/3 of the rest of the garden is a lawn. What fraction of my garden is lawn? When I say pause, please pause this video and try to solve these problems. Pause. Okay, welcome back. So I want us to look at the part of a part problem first. 1/4 of my garden has fruit trees and 2/3 of the fruit trees are apple trees. What fraction of my yard is apple trees? So if you look at this, this was a part of a part problem for the very reasons that we just discussed. First, the second fraction is connected to the first. You see that in the sentence here. 2/3 of the fruit trees are apple trees. It connects the two fractions, which shows you it is a part of a part problem. You also notice that the question will often mention both fractions. Like here, what fraction of my yard is apple trees? Even though you don't see the fruit trees there, you know that the apple trees are fruit trees. Finally, you should see how you are taking a part of one of the fractions. And that's what you see here. If 1/4 of my garden is fruit trees and 2/3 of those are apple trees, you can see that you are taking a part of that original part. So that helps us solve everything. We know we can do the math with the numbers we see. 1/4 times 2/3 equals 2/12. And we know for the model to draw it like this. 1/4 shown vertically for the fruit trees, and then you cut it 2/3 across and do 2/3 of those fruit trees for apple trees. And the math, 2/12, and the model, 2/12 match. Now let's look at the part of what is left problem. In this problem, 1/4 of my garden is fruit trees, 2/3 of the rest of the garden is a lawn. What fraction of my garden is lawn? You'll notice that the second fraction is not connected to the first. In fact, it is 2/3 of the rest of the area. And that makes sense. You wouldn't put a lawn under your fruit trees, would you? You also notice that the question will refer to the second fraction. In this case, the question, what fraction of my garden is lawn, is referring to the lawn on the rest of the area. Finally, you need to know what the rest is. You'll notice that in this problem, instead of connecting the two fractions, you clearly see 2/3 of the rest of the garden is a lawn. All those ways tell you that it is a what is left problem, and therefore I draw it thus. First, I still draw the 1/4 for fruit trees, because that helps me know that there are 3/4 left over, and that is the hidden number, the rest. I find the rest by first coloring in the fruit trees. Then I know that I'm doing 2/3 of those fruit of the rest of that area for my lawn. So I horizontally break it into thirds, and I do 2/3 of each there. 2/3 lawn, 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 for an answer of 6/12. I hope you see the differences between these two types of problems. Now, you are going to try. In a moment, I want you to pause the video and try these two problems. The answers will be revealed on your next video. for the warm-up. At this point, please pause, read these problems, and try to solve them. Pause. Welcome back, you guys. The two things I will say is this. If you thought that this problem about the sandwiches was a part of a part problem, you were correct. If on this problem you thought that this was a part of what is left problem, you were correct. Stay tuned next time and we will go over the answers for these two problems in the beginning of the video. Now, I hope you guys have a better understanding of the differences between part of a part problems and part of what is left problems. Have a great day, you guys.